Welcome back to part number 3 of the Fed 5 CLA tutorial. I, in the meantime, managed to get rid of all the parts. All the parts that I didn't need for this stage of the reassembly, and I also cleaned the parts needed to get this film transport, film advance stage done. Okay, so where to start? Well, I think I am going to start with this one and this one. So basically this one goes here, the little ledge goes here, and this is the middle gear, so the one that connects this one to this one, and then I can focus on the shutter release shaft. Okay, I'm going to use, this is moly grease, so molybdenum grease, and I'm going to lubricate the inside of the shaft. Okay, and now this one goes inside. And the little ledge has a hole here, and the hole must go over this little bit of wire, so it's like that. It's some sort of spring that will move the ledge away from the gear when you are winding, and to the gear when the tension of the shutter pulls back through the gears, pulls back on this one. And this is the screw, I suppose. So when the gear spins counterclockwise, that ledge moves aside. When it tries to spin clockwise, it pulls on the ledge, and the tip of the ledge engages between the teeth of the gear. That's the principle of working. Obviously, I will wipe off the excess grease. I could use a tissue. Okay. What I also did in the meantime, I tried to clean as much as possible everything here without further disassembly, because as I already mentioned, this one is quite soft, so actually all this metal is soft, it's brass, and I don't want to bend anything. This one, no idea how to take off. It's probably clipped in place, This one also is probably clipped, actually it's not probably, it's certainly clipped in place, meaning this black part is clipped over this square profile of the bottom part. So I cleaned everything as much as possible using lighter fluid, and then I used Nye oil, the shutter oil, in this form, which is Nye oil combined with moly powder, to actually lubricate in this gap and in this gap, so it would make a very thin coating on the inside of this bushing. And I did kind of the same for this gear. You can probably spot some black remnants of the moly powder inside, and also for this gear. So hopefully they will run smoothly. Next is this one, that I will just use a little bit of grease on the inside, and this is the screw. All right. Not bad. Then we have these parts, and this one is the first to go and sits like this. And this smaller L-shaped one goes here, and this longer screw should go through both of them. And now this ledge goes here, or spring, actually it's a spring, with this leg underneath those two L-shaped pieces and this leg over. So it's a bit tricky to put back. All right. And I'm stupid. This one should go with the bent part, so the smaller part of the L down, obviously. Otherwise it's fine. Okay. So, longer L here and shorter L on the other side, with the L pointing down. Come on. right. I use the tip of my probe to make sure the holes are aligned properly, and then the screw should in theory engage correctly and not be stopped by a mispositioned piece. In theory. In practice, it's not that easy. All right. And now back to this bit. All right. And it seems to be in working order. All right, what next? Well, I think this is next. This little bit being the first one to go down. These were pretty clean, so there wasn't a lot of lubricant on them. I'm not really sure if they are meant to run dry or not. Probably a thin coating of something would help. So just for good measure, I will smudge a bit of grease on the little pieces. Okay. That one drops in place. Then this is the next one. And obviously this hole needs to align with this slot. Like so. And it should receive this. All right. Next would be this one. But no, actually I think I will put this one back first. Okay, and the hole in the shutter release button needs to align with this slot. now, because I can keep pressure on the shutter release button, this blade or blade-like thing sticks out, so I can turn the sprocket shaft until it engages the blade. But in order to engage the blade, I also need this that will keep the axis or the shaft of the blade still, because it's that round thing with a flat side that will be restricted from turning by this little gear. Okay, so I have a washer that should be here, and I will also add a very little dab of grease, just so that the washer doesn't fly around too easily. And this quirky thing needs to go, I think, like this, right? Because this part of the spring should engage in, what is it, like this? No, it's like this. Now, getting the little spring over the latch is not easy. Alright, I think I got it. And now, if I've got everything right, getting the shaft of the next gear, I forgot how it's called, it has a specific name. So getting the shaft of this gear inside will push back up the shutter button. Only that it doesn't want to go up. Why is that? because of that latch. Okay, let's try it again. Okay, I think I'm missing something, and that something is probably this part. So I'll get this part back and try to simulate what happens when you press on the film rewind release collar, and we'll see if it works as it's supposed to work. So this thing goes here, right? Yes. And it has a washer, and then it has this post. And then it has the clip on top of the washer that engages a slot in the post, and it's meant to keep the actual piece in place so it won't lift. And then it has this spring, if I remember correctly, the very bend, so the sharp angle bend in the spring goes on the left side. This is a bit tricky. Like this, and the other end goes on the other side. So now pressing on the release collar locks it in the down position. So this one is disengaged. When you are winding the shutter, so winding the shutter means this motion. That wrong gear with the 4 pins would push on this and allow the entire sleeve to go up. So I think it works correctly. The only way to really test it is go ahead and put back everything on this part, and eventually when the shutter assembly is back on the camera for the first tests, I can see if it works or not. If it doesn't work, well, I'll have to open up the entire thing again. So I also need, on this part, I need the big set of shims, the big gear, this, and these two, and also the winding knob lever, the winding lever. And I think that's about it, because everything on top of this will only be replaced after the top cover is in place, so I'm not going to need them now. Okay, let's see. Okay, I'm using an old toothbrush. It's a medium toothbrush to clean in between the teeth of these gears, because if I would be using some rags, all the lint from the rag would catch on the teeth. And I will only lubricate this inner part. Okay, and this one goes teeth up, pins up. And for some reason it will not slide. No, it does. It does, but that's not really the way to do it. So I'm going to slacken that screw. Okay. Alright, so after some fiddling around, I kind of got to the bottom of it. Proof that I am constantly learning stuff, and some things, although I don't really enjoy doing this, some things are actually kind of, let's say, live. I mean, I don't really have enough experience with certain cameras and certain aspects of certain cameras in order to be, let's say, fluent in my videos. But yes, it's a learning experience, and I guess I shouldn't be ashamed of stuff like this or anything. So, I was not understanding why this happens. So, basically, see, right now, pushing the release button doesn't completely disengage this gear. And I was struggling to understand why is this. My initial thought was that I messed something up in here, so the order of parts or something. But actually it's not a bug, it's not my fault, it's a feature of the camera. And it kind of made sense when let's say I took a step back and tried to think exactly this. What if this is a feature? Why would it act like this and make sense? And well, it does make sense. It's easier to show than to explain. So FED5B, right now it's released, so I can push the button all the way down. If I wind the camera, I can push the button all the way down. If I partially wind the camera, I can no longer push the button all the way down. And this is actually very cool. You can't release the camera mid-wind. It won't allow you to release the camera mid-wind. So unless the shutter is fully cocked, so the film fully advanced to the next frame, the camera is locked. So basically no misfires. Okay, knowing this makes understanding the principle of this part of the camera easier. I am not 100% sure if the position of this in relation to the state of the shutter, so cocked, uncocked, or somewhere in the middle, matters or not. I tend to think that it doesn't matter, because in the last FED5 that I worked on, I didn't pay attention to this. I only paid attention to the position of this gear. Now, this gear can be repositioned according to, let's say, your needs after the fact, meaning after the shutter has been replaced in the camera. So my thinking is that it won't matter in which position this gear sits, because if I turn it at some point, the shutter button goes all the way down. So this should be the position for the cocked state of the shutter, because only then you are allowed to press the button. If this happens to be in another position, so let's say the shutter is half cocked when the button can be pressed, that means that while you are advancing, you are moving this a bit and the button won't be allowed to go all the way down, and therefore you won't be able to release the camera as needed. I suppose the safest method would be to actually place the shutter in its cocked state while this sprocket shaft is in this position. And for that, this little gear, the pin of this little gear must be in front of the pin of the sprocket shaft. So once released, it spins, reaches back this position, sits back or goes back up, and then while you are winding, the rotation of the sprocket is transmitted through the pins to this gear and then to the shutter. So that's what I'm going to try to do when I'm back at the reassembly stage. If this gear is not in the correct position with all these other gears and pieces aligned properly, then I will simply remove this part so I can have access to this gear, take it out and attach it to a different position so that I have those 2 millimeters between the pin, one of the pins, and this part, because I know it should be 2 because I measured it. Okay, so yes, that is that. This part is completed. I only need to put back this retainer. I'm not going to put it back now because I might need to take it off again, and because this won't get out if the retainer is not in place, it will only jiggle up and down, and it really doesn't matter for the time being. Okay, so retainer goes back in the box. I hope you kind of understood what is going on here. Obviously it was a mystery for me as well. Now all of us know the truth. And that will be it for today's episode. This thing spins pretty nicely, so I will not be taking it apart. And that is just because instead of a retainer or a circlip, they used this little fucker. So this wire spring stuff that is very easily broken when pulled out. I will just use a tiny bit of oil so it spins even nicer. And let's not lose this one that goes here. Okay. Yes, that's it for today. Next time I will be working on the shutter, I suppose, because this part is ready, and the only thing that I still need to get in place is this shaft and the rangefinder and the rangefinder arm, and that's it. Yeah, that's it. Alright, so next time, shutter time. Thank you, I hope it wasn't too much, and I will see you next time.